What is up, guys? Basic Battles here today, and I am matchmaking our future UFC pay-per-views. UFC 320, 21, 22, and 23. Potentially. I don't know. Obviously 21, 22, and 23 haven't been announced yet, but I'm just going to assume that is the late October pay-per-view, November in Madison Square Garden, and December in Vegas. Now, UFC 321 is an interesting one because I don't know where it's going to be. It might be in Perth. It might be in Abu Dhabi. I don't know. We know that UFC 320 just got moved from, I think it was late September to early October, and from Mexico to Vegas because of construction. I think that was the reason, allegedly. But yeah. So I have a couple of ideas of what the pay-per-views are going to be. Oops. There we go. Now for Vegas, obviously this was Noche UFC, and the speculation was that it was going to be Yair Rodriguez versus Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch for the UFC Featherweight Championship. However, recently, literally today, they announced that Movsar Evloev is going to fight Aaron Pico in his debut fight in 5-round co-main for UFC Abu Dhabi in July. So, honestly, it's not. I think the only reason that they would do Yair versus Volk is because Yair, they'd have a Mexican title challenger in the in the UFC Noche. That would make somewhat sense, I guess. I mean, they had Grasso on the last two, in a title fight, but now she's not available anymore. She'll probably still be on the card, actually. She'll probably fight like Rose or something. But yeah, in a potential UFC Noche, I think Yair would be on the card. I think it makes more sense for him to headline the fight night of UFC Noche with like a Diego Lopez. I think that fight's perfect for that. That's a perfect headliner for UFC Noche. But yeah, I don't. So Volk versus Yair is still an option. Not an option, obviously. I don't want that fight at all. But for the UFC, looking at it, it's probably still an option. Like it's like a backup for UFC 320. But the actual fight I think is going to be on 320 in Vegas is this one: Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira rematch. Now, obviously, their last fight was all the way in March 8th. So having a rematch all the way in October, March 8th, October, I think it was October 4th, that lines up pretty well. Not really much going on. I think yesterday Alex weighed in at 243 pounds, so I don't think he's going to fight a heavyweight. I don't think he's going to fight Aspinall or Jones. I don't think those are very favorable fights for him. That's just me. Yeah. So I do think, Alex was a great champ. He lost a close fight to Ankalaev. Could have gone either way. Not the most entertaining fight, but, there's still going to be plenty of buzz around a rematch. Ready for it. They could do this fight in Abu Dhabi if that's the direction they go with 321. But I think Vegas 320, I just think it's a good place for the rematch. As for Eddie, I don't think they'll put another title fight on this. Honestly, I think it'll just be Ankh vs. Potan too. I think they know. Have they put, aside from UFC 300? Yeah, I mean he was co-main to no, he wasn't. He was main event. So yeah, they did put another title fight under him for years, but that was kind of strenuous because he was a co-main with Yuri for his title challenge, and then the interim title just got put under because Jones pulled out. Yeah. For the second Yuri fight, there was no title fight under him, and for the Khalil Roundtree fight, there was. Okay, never mind. See, I'm just wrong. I was gonna say they don't put too many title fights under him, but they have. They put Sergey and Aspinall. They obviously at the UFC 300 they kind of had to, and then 307 had Pena versus Pennington. Not the best quality, but still, they were there. They didn't earlier this year though. They had Gaethje versus Fiziev on there. It was supposed to be Hooker versus Gaethje in a 5-round co-main. God, I really wish that fight actually happened, man. Why does Dan Hooker's hands need to be made out of paper mache? But whatever. Maybe they run that back. Come on, Gaethje. You're not gonna get a title shot. Wait, now you might as well just fight Dan Hooker, brother. Tucker's probably not gonna be healed by then. Whatever. Yeah, Ankalaev versus Potan. Big Ankh versus yeah. We'll get to these two, because honestly they could put one of these two defending against one of these two on that, but we'll get to that later, where I think that's gonna be. Big one, Perth or Abu Dhabi, UFC 321. Now, no matter what, I think the headliner is this right here: Jack Della Maddalena defending his belt against Islam Makhachev. I think that's, no matter what, that's 321. That's late October. That's the fight to make in Perth with Jack Della, or with home court, or in Abu Dhabi in Islam's home court. We will see. As a co-main for this, if it's in Perth, they might do Volk. I don't know. I think they might put Volk on there. Or if it's in Abu Dhabi, they might still put Volk on there, but put him against Mobsar. But I don't know if July to October is going to be very ideal for Mobsar. He might do it. He's not the least active person I know. But, yeah. So I don't know. But 100%, I can not guarantee, but I can confidently say that this will be the headliner, which is what we're doing here. So that's out the way. I don't know where it'll be. My best guess is going to be in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Just because it's October, they have to do Abu Dhabi, right? But it could be Perth, and if it is, that'd be sick, because I think Jalen Madeline deserves to home court. You know, Islam did. No, he didn't. He went to Perth to defend against Volk. Wrong again. Anyways, UFC 322. Here we are. This is complicated, but I feel like they're just trolling us, honestly. I feel like it's going to be Jones-Aspinall. Or it's going to be Aspinall versus Gane. Or Volkov. You know, one of these two. It's going to be Aspinall versus somebody. Here, in my opinion, to headline UFC 322. Now, the thing is, I just think it's the heavyweight, you know? I feel like the saga started at 2 years ago in MSG. I feel like it's poetic if it ends here. If it's Jones-Aspinall, that'd be... I feel like Jones only wants to fight MSG, honestly, for some reason. He wants to just make us wait an entire year for useless fights. God, Stipe fight was so useless. Why did we do that? Whatever. If it ends in MSG, I'd be cool with that. But I do think he fights. I think Aspinall fights. He says he wants to fight twice before the end of the year. That's not happening because... all the way up until September is already booked, so he's not fighting in early October, and then another time in the next 3 months. So that's not happening. He's going to fight once, I think, 100%, against either Gane or Jones. 10% chance it's Volkov, because he beat Gane. And I'm a Cyril Gane fan, but he lost that fight. But, yeah, a Cyril Gane fan in 2025, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, he's, I'm not looking forward to watching Tommy Boy maul Gane. But, yeah. So, yeah, Tom Aspinall fights someone. Now, here's the complicated thing. Does Amanda Nunes return before the end of the year? Or does she just wait until, like, January or February or March? I don't know. You have to, she's been saying for a while that she wants to get back in there. But she's not in fight shape right now. She hasn't been training. She's going to start probably as soon as Pena subbed her is when she got in the mindset that she's going to come out of retirement. I don't know. I could be very, very wrong on that. She could have just been training the whole time, be ready, and be an MSG. Because a Jones-Aspinall unification bout with Kayla versus Nunes as the co-main, that would be an absolutely insane pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. It makes sense. I feel like Nunes has been there for Jones. I know she won she beat Cyborg for double champ status at 232 with Gus and Jones as the main event. So I could see history repeating itself. Her headlining under Jones. So yeah. You know, the alleged GOAT versus the GOAT of women, them next to each other. That'd be kind of cool. Even though he's not the GOAT. He's whatever. I'm not going to get into my John Jones tangent now, but GSP's the GOAT. Anyways, yeah, that'd be sick. Zhang, she could do MSG like she did a few years ago when she beat Esparza, and she got robbed against Rose. Yeah, she got robbed against Rose at 268, and then the next year, I think it was the next year, she beat Carla. Pretty sure. Pretty sure that's correct. They could do Val versus Silva. I could see that happening. One of these two. I think both of these fights are going to happen before this fight happens. I think before Zhang versus Val happens, I think they need to get through the number because they have clear number one contenders. Verner's number one, Silva's number one. Get these fights done, then while the divisions are solved, because that's it. Val already beat Manon. She beat Grasso. Blanchfield doesn't have a fight booked. This didn't happen, so there's nothing there. Zhang already beat Suarez. Already beat Jan. Already beat Lemos. Already beat Andrade. Mackenzie's not up there. She's talking about she wants a vacant title fight against when she got the hell beat out of her out of Andrade. And she lost to Jan. She lost to Lemos. So yeah, she doesn't deserve anything. Suarez is probably not gonna. So these fights, they haven't fought them. Nothing's happened there. These need to happen, and then if they get past this should happen. Obviously, if they just do Val versus Zhang, how mad am I gonna be if that happens? That is an epic fight. Even Zhang's like my favorite fighter on the roster right now. I would love to see her try to be a double champion. That'd be absolutely insane. Or a two-weight division champion if they make her vacate, which would suck. But whatever. Yeah. Would be sick, but I think both these fights would be sick too. I'd be excited for her versus Verna or her versus Silva. Either way. And I feel like that gives you more options because you're not going to have, you're not going to do a vacant title. They're probably just going to let Zhang go for double champ status, make her hold simultaneously because they don't care enough about Verna versus if they did Mackenzie Dern. That's not going to do anything. That's not a good vacant title fight. So yeah, I think these two fights, Val versus Silva, Zhang versus is gonna headline, or is gonna co-headline something here. They could be in Vegas. They could be at 320. One of these two fights. Like Zhang hasn't fought since February, so her against Verna co-headlining UFC 320, and then 321. I don't think it'll be anything there. I think they're just gonna let JDM versus Islam hold up the fort. MSG could be a lot of things. It could be Harrison versus Nunez. It could be Zhang versus Verna. It could be Valentina versus Silva. It could be other things. It could be flyweight. Like if Pantoja just runs through Kaikara easily, or vice versa somehow. If Kaikara somehow cracks that chin and wants to come back instantly and fight like Josh Van in November, or Royval rematch in November. Whoever wins that fight, because they're fighting on the same card, like literally a fight away from each other. That's the title eliminator, and they're gonna fight the winner of that. So yeah, it could be Marab. Like he dispatched Sean O'Malley easily, and he did that a few weeks ago. He could easily, come back in November if he wants to against Sandhagen. That's a really good co-headliner because that's probably not gonna headline a pay-per-view. To be completely honest, Marab versus. Yeah, him versus Corey is not going to headline a pay-per-view. Jan is booked. Umar, if they give Umar a rematch, that would suck. This would just be two undeserved rematches back-to-back. I'd still be excited for it because it's like a really good fight, and the first fight was actually really close. I thought Marab won. But, it was closest, and it was the first two rounds were clearly Umar. Last three were Marab's. 48-47s are genuinely close, obviously. But, yeah, I would love to see that again. But not now. Umar needs to fight someone. He needs to fight like him versus Song would be cool as hell. Let's do that for the next fight. A title eliminator. Why not? Let Corey have his title shot. He's been waiting for a while. He just beat Figgy, who was a top 5 at the time. Whatever. Peters, like I said, he's fighting Marcus McGee in July, so he's booked. O'Malley's not next. He's already lost twice. Maybe they do Umar Sean. Probably not. But if they do Marab versus Umar, it might just co-main Islam versus Jack Della if it's in Abu Dhabi. It might go headline either way because Marab is for the people, guys. He loves everyone. except people that yell from the crowd. He will attack you. Do not yell, Marab. But that leaves. See, all of this is like a big, big question. Question mark for UFC 323. Because I just named a lot of fights. A lot of fights that could happen. But not definitively, but my list is UFC 320, Ankh versus Poten. 321, JDM versus Islam. 322, Tom Aspinall versus somebody. Versus Gon, versus Volkov, versus Jones. Hopefully Jones. I named a lot of co-mains, you know. But I think 323 is actually going to be this guy. I think it's going to be Volk versus the winner of Aaron Pico and Movsar Evloev. Because I know Dana's not the most reliable source now. He's practically already out of it. He's probably going to, by the end of next year, he's probably going to be Hunter Campbell's position. Nah, that's a hot take. That's a hot take. But yeah, he's stated that if Movsar wins, it'll be him versus Volk next. So I honestly think that, since UFC Noche isn't a pay-per-view anymore, I honestly think that it's going to be, they're just making Volk wait out. Even though he didn't want to, he wanted to fight 2 more times, which again is now very unrealistic. Since he's only going to fight 1 more time this year, I think they're just going to make him wait until December, where he's going to fight the winner of Movsar versus Aaron Pico. If he takes Movsar's O instantly in a 5-round co-main, if that's like his first impression, I have no doubt that they would be willing to give him a title shot. They were probably going to do the same thing for Pitbull. If he beat Yair somehow, they were probably going to give him a title shot, because that's how they were billing it, They really want to push the PFL and Bellator. They really want to push the Bellator guys, So, yeah. Look what they tried with Patchy Mix. Oh, man. It's been really intriguing, honestly. All these new signings, just getting really big fights instantly is sick. I'm interested in them, but no, not this one is like makes the least amount of sense. Like Patchy Mix, that's because Cheeto is out. That makes sense. Pitbull, he's a legend outside the UFC. He's like isn't he like 2-division champ? I think in Bellator. He went down to Ben. He did a lot outside the UFC. So it made sense for him to get an instant 5-round fight against a guy who wasn't doing anything. Movsar has like 4 top 15 wins. He should have a title shot. He should have been booked versus Volk already. It doesn't, well, maybe not already, because he did just fight in April. So maybe not, but he should be next in line, 100%, in my opinion. But whatever. What's done is done. It's Movsar versus, in July to December is a good turnaround for Movsar or Pico to fight Volk in December. I think that's fine. So yeah. 323 is Volk, but Merab could co-main, Pantoja could co-main, any of the women's fights I stated could co-main except for Nunez versus Kayla. I think if that happens, maybe that could headline 323. That's a good backup. If it was Volk versus Movsar with a co-main, or maybe they do Nunez versus Nah, they'd make Volk headline. I think they do the higher weight classes kind of thing, featherweight over bantamweight. I think they'll do that, which is why I think they just do like Zhang or Val or whatever. There's so I'm just listing so many fights for 4 pay-per-views. Like these pay-per-views are gonna be good. Like the way 319 stacked up, it is some really really good fights on it. And Kamzat versus DDP, that's gonna be a great fight. 318's kind of looking a little, let's just look at them. 318's not looking the best, like, at all. But, retirement fight for Max. This fight itself sells the pay-per-view, really. But, come on. If this is our co-main, man, this is kind of good. Jimmy Crute. This is a great fight. Neil versus Gunner. But, really, man? I know some other fights Paulo versus Roman Kopylov just got put on this card because Costa had an infection or something. So I guess that's a little bit better and would definitely co-main over this. Even though they're higher in rank, they would definitely co-main over this. But Apollo Costa co-main in 2025. I'm not into it. But I'm into this. So it's a one fight card. And what a fight. What a fight. Really hope something big gets announced for that, honestly. Even though it's, in July. But the UFC likes to do that, they've been doing that recently. It's only a month out and they just announced like the full ordeal for, even though we've known that Peter Yan's going to fight Marcus McGee and Pico's going to fight. We've known that for so long and they just announced it. So I really hate that. This new thing that they're doing with the cards. Like they just announced this whole card today. It's in July. It's in a month. Literal month, and they just announced all of it today, and they didn't even update it. Come on, guys, get it together. Get it together. UFC webpage. Like I said, 319, looking really good. Like actually, like this, this is a pretty good co-main. People are gonna say something that it's not and whatever, but this is a really good co-main. Jared versus Michael Page, but it has a bunch of great fights on it. Spoya versus Battle at middleweights is great. Asakura is back. Andrade always brings a fight, and Loopy's there. Chase Hooper's on a big rise right now. They keep giving him cans. Like Alex Hernandez, really? Oh my god, you got Cannonier, Page, Mershart, Barbosa, Fiera, Green, cut Tim Elliott. Oh man, they got Andrade. This is the Unk card, headlined by these two. This is gonna be a great fight. Very excited for this. If this is a one fight card, it's got a much better undercard than 318. Much better in my opinion. But yeah, so that's it. So officially, I'm gonna just say my official things. What I think it's gonna be. I think UFC 320. I think it'll be Unk versus Potan, co-main Zhang versus Verna. I think that's going to be that. UFC 321, I think it's going to be JDM versus Islam. Co-main, some big unranked fight that I'm not thinking of right now. 322, or, maybe. I'll just say co-main for Islam. JDM is something huge. Like, not huge, but something pretty big. Like Marab versus Sandhagen. Marab, co-main to Islam. Cool. Why not? Can we co-main to Islam twice in a year? Sure. That's thematic. 322, Aspinall versus someone. Gon, Volkov, Jones. Pick your poison. Co-main, co-main, we'll just play it safe and say Valentina versus Silva. Natalie Silva. 323 in Vegas. I think it's Volk versus Mavzar. And I think co-main it's going to be Pantoja or Kaikara versus winner. I'll just say Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. I'll go with the favorites. I'll go with the favorites for now. God, how interested are we in a Royval versus Pantoja? Is it a trilogy? Or has it already happened 3 times? No, it's only happened twice. Yeah, a trilogy then. So yeah, that's it. That's everything. Tell me your thoughts. Matchmaking in the comments. Yeah. This was fun. Thank you for watching.